Imagine being the last person in the distant future to speak English. The others slowly died off over time, leaving you the sole survivor, the last speaker of a nearly extinct language. The words of millions of people, hundreds of years of history, the many writings and books, all resting on you. Your culture is built on this language, your ability to converse. But imagine lying on your deathbed, bright lights, influxes of people walking in. You never had the chance to write down what you knew about the language, so as you drift away, so does the language of English. Now, this might sound too morbid to be true, but this is exactly what happens to many people that were the last surviving members of their language. Some people, in fact, have carried such massive articles of speech to the grave that can be compared to the historical importance of even English. It is still happening today, as a language dies out every 2 weeks. On top of this, out of the more than 7,000 languages there are in the world, 50% are in danger of dying out by 2100. But what causes the death of these, and how can we prevent this from happening in the future? In this video, I want to investigate these inquiries and paint a narrative of the future of language. This is the death of language. Anyways, before the video goes on, this video took hours of work, so please like and subscribe, that would be awesome. Anyways, on with the video. While language death is a broad subject, it can be mostly pinpointed into some causes. On January 22nd, 1932, the povertous regions of El Salvador rose against the government, attacking, pillaging with simple machetes. They got a few towns before the army was able to suppress the uprising, resulting in 10,000 to 40,000 deaths. In the aftermath of the attack, though, a lot of areas of poverty were under harsh scrutiny by the government. This led one specific language, called Lenca, to completely die out. Since the people wanted to dissociate themselves with the revolution, they switched to the language spoken most commonly in El Salvador. This is an example of languages dying out quickly, either because of a disease or a disaster, or because of a common motive, like Lenca. The opposite of this is a slow and gradual decline, which can be because of a movement of speakers towards a bilingual status and forgetting their language, or because of wanting to heighten their socio-economic status. An instance of this is in the second or third generation immigrants to the United States that might have been taught by their parents to speak English, which would have helped them to gain opportunities in the US that they wouldn't have got only knowing their specific language. Migration, immigration, and conquests have in addition helped with both the spread and the decline of some dialects. Many scientists say that in the due future, millions of people will migrate because of climate-related events. This will be because of the negative effect on water, infrastructure, and agriculture, and economics. We've seen the effect of climate shifts throughout the history, such as the migration after the end of the Roman Empire, and the droughts that helped with the demise of the Mayan Empire. With these migrations, language follows, or in some cases dies out because of the need for social or economic advancement, or as the climate change showed, because of the forcing. Another language, Coptic, an Egyptian language considered the first language of Christianity, died out due to the Arab takeover of Egypt in the 1640s, which shows how conquest too can affect speech. Furthermore, a lack of documentation can lead to a downfall, as exemplified by the intro's contents. It makes sense, as if nobody knows how a language works, there's no way it can be revitalized or continued. This is a massive problem today, as 85% of language still needs to be recorded or written down. With the discussion of the written record, there also needs to be a focus on how technology can affect people's decision as to say with a dialect or not. A big part of daily life nowadays is technology, whether if it's cell phones, televisions, YouTube, or such. If languages are not applicable or are not included on these apps or types of phones, it can be a drive for people to learn a second language to be able to use these kinds of technologies. But how are we helping the comment of the decline of these languages, letting them sustain and carry on? A key part against the dying of languages has been most certainly the initiative to teach the languages to children and let them carry it on. Children are our future, and especially in the sustaining of linguistics. These have been widely successful, whether in one-on-one relationships in a setting built to nurture the development of knowledge of the language, or in classrooms. On top of this, the government has pitched into by passing the 1990 Native American Language Act, which helps languages by preserving, protecting, and promoting the Native American right to use their language. Some funding is help, with an extension in 2006 adding $10 million to the budget, but more funding is still needed. The Wakchumni language is a Native American language that, of this writing, only has one speaker. That one speaker is Mary Wilcox. She learned it growing up, but stopped using it when her grandmother left. She remembered it again when her sisters started speaking it towards the end of their lifetimes. She, in the early 2000s, started making a Wakchumni dictionary, which was finished and published in 2014. It took 7 years to make because, though she works for hours a day, her typing speed was something to be desired. She also started recording an audio version of the dictionary. She shows that the written record can be a key part of how to save a dying dialect, as audio recordings, dictionaries, books, documents, and research papers are all able to be accessed and used for years to come, creating a safety blanket, a footprint to be discovered by later researchers or recoverers. A new part has been the aforementioned involvement of technology. By integrating their language into the technology that is prevalent today, some languages have made it more appealing for people to use their language by making it usable with devices today. They've also used technology to connect and communicate with people. For example, the Social Distance Powwow is a Facebook group that convened starting in March 2020 and has accumulated 240,000 of the time of writing followers, and is dedicated to celebrating Native American heritage with drumming, singing, and traditional ceremonies. This has helped cultivate relationships in this difficult time for Native Americans. We've been doing a lot to save language, but why does it matter? Why do we need to save these languages? What influences us to go through all these challenges and spend all this money? Well, in this part we will answer that question. Silbo Gomero is a language spoken by the residents of the island El Gomera in the Canary Islands. With only 22,000 speakers, it is smaller, but quite healthy with young people studying. But if it does die out, with it will come the art of whistle speaking, as this is what people use for speech. It replaces the vowels with certain pitches, and is also differentiated by the noise being interrupted or continuous. They use it because the terrain is very mountainous, and it is easier to whistle than yelling, as with yelling it distorts, but with whistling it is clear for long distances. This is why an important part of these languages needing to survive is the need to keep the nuances and cultural parts of the language that the native people are using. There also will be a decrease in complexity, a decrease in the quality of languages that we have. Some languages that have been around for hundreds of years are very complicated and hard to learn, often reflecting the niche-like abstract ideas that are required. Languages such as English are dumbed down and too homogeneous. Kerala, for example, I'm very sorry about that pronunciation, is an Australian language that, because of British rule, dulled out and became less popular. The people that used to use it in the past wove the parts of geology and patterns of the island area into the language. It helps communicate more clearly certain geological features, understand, and cues, but without these, it is harder to talk about these specific things. Another example is Paraha. Again, pronunciation, which is a language spoken in the Amazon rainforest, which is only spoken by 380 people. It is the simplest language in the world, with 7 consonants and 3 vowels. It, though, is a more reliant on its unique abstract view to linguistics. No numbers have a set name, but the stressing and the tone you say it in dictates what it sounds like. Instead of red, they might instead said, "It looks like red." This language, luckily, is not close to dying out because of how unique and protected it is. Historical and cultural documents too, artifacts, songs, writings, anecdotes, are all on the chopping block with the death of languages, which can decrease our historical knowledge and could make it harder to understand the regions of history that language has died out. So in conclusion, language is a key part of culture and nuance that can make something special. It gives definition. Having a world with only one language would be nice in the future, maybe, but right now, the places that love their culture and are proud of it deserve a future for their language. Anyways, that's the end of the video, so please sub and like, and see ya.